Hello, I am Dr. Sarah E. Crow, and basically what I'm going to talk about today, it helps explain why it has been so long, so very long, I know, since I've had a video up. And a lot of it really this time has had to do more with my health than anything else. And also you have to realize, I'm realizing more and more too, that cancer does not just happen in a vacuum. It happens within a life that you've probably been building, without the thought of cancer being directly relevant to it. So you have to learn how to adjust to multiple different things, and I'm still learning that. I realized that today is actually technically the anniversary of when I discovered that I got stage 4, you know, um, breast cancer, which I guess, great for Facebook memories, huh? But so it's been 5 years now that I've had stage 4, which is about twice as long as most people who have metastatic breast cancer will tend to live. And it really doesn't matter how long you've had it and how well you've done up to a certain point if certain things are changing. And one thing that has changed for me has been basically whenever the cancer has spread to different parts of my body, I realized that each time there's just a whole slew of different things that go along with it, like whether it's just side effects from medications or from the cancer itself, or just how it affects you as a person and how much it really brings home the fact that you are actually dying is really what's been kind of uh, horrifying about like this aspect of cancer now being in my lungs. Basically, um, whenever you get breast cancer and you find out that it's metastatic breast cancer, it does tend to go from one area of the body to another area in certain sequence. Now, it's different if you are diagnosed de novo, which means that you were initially diagnosed as stage 4. I wasn't. I was initially stage 2. People who are not diagnosed de novo, typically metastatic breast cancer goes from the breast to different areas like, in the lymph nodes and things like that, to the back and then your bones, basically. And then the next place that it tends to go is your lungs. And then after that, your brain. So I'm worried about that because, as I've stated in most of these videos, I've been slowly but steadily, seeing my cancer progress and get worse. I'm still at a point where overall I can handle doing most tasks on my own. Some things, of course, are harder. And since I have cancer that spread to my lungs, I've realized just how much that's affected my life. Whenever the cancer first spread to my bones, it hurt a lot, but I was still able to get along fine, just like with my medications and everything. I just had to make sure that, I didn't pack my backpack up as full as I could or anything. I tried to accept help with things like that, like helping me carry things and whatnot. But beyond having to change a few things like that and not being able to be quite as active as I was before, it didn't affect me as much as, the cancer spreading to my lungs has. I first actually started noticing changes in my body before I knew that it had spread to my lungs. I was finding myself out of breath, and I was like, well, maybe it's because I haven't been exercising enough, or maybe it's just, at the time I was traveling and I was out of state, and so I was like, well, maybe it's because I'm somewhere else, and it's, it got a different atmosphere and all these other reasons, and, and I was like, well, I mean, I do have cancer. I have to realize sometimes things are going to be hard, but, it seemed to be worse than I would have imagined, just like as it had been whenever it was, constrained to just my bones. So as time's gone on, that's slowly but steadily gotten worse. And it turns out that I have cancer within my pleural sac. This is going to be a little bit harder to explain, I guess. Basically, I have a malignant pleural effusion, and just seeing yourself going from a person who still feels like they want to be active and like my arms and my legs constantly are like, I want to get going, I want to get doing something, and then it's like the lungs get in the way. And it's kind of strange how I don't always have problems breathing. Sometimes I can go for a walk and be fine, and sometimes I can walk for about a minute and need to be like, okay, I need to rest a little bit for a second, catch my breath. And there are certain things that make it worse. I notice just, going too fast, being embarrassed or having anxiety and things like that. So basically every time I go to the hospital, it's worse. But it's something that most people, though, have been understanding of at this point. I guess like all the people who weren't understanding got weeded out earlier on. But people have, been there for me, and if I needed to rest or if I need to sit, they'll be there. And I do appreciate that a lot, because it is kind of, when you're still relatively young, it's kind of embarrassing and strange, even though I know I shouldn't be embarrassed, to be like, okay, I need to, get my breath again, things like that. But like I said, so far people have been very understanding. I've even had to go in a wheelchair at times and things like that. But and that changes your whole perspective on things too, wherever you're at. But it's all been okay. I've been able to adapt, and that's something that you have to keep on learning whenever you have cancer, is adapting and dealing with uncertainty. And those are some of the most important things in the world, and they are really important in everyday life too. And I think that those are things that would help a lot of people who have been, worried during this whole pandemic. And other times, because you really do never know when something's going to happen, and something can affect, like I used to plan so much and I would have everything perfect and, all the other stuff, or I thought I did. And it really, in the end, if you end up getting cancer or something, it really doesn't matter, because the cancer is going to take up a large part of your life. You can't really just pencil that in and be like, okay, deal with that for an hour and then go back to what I wanted to. So especially since there's so many different parts of your life that you have to continue doing, even though you have cancer. I know that there are a lot of people who think, oh, well, when you get cancer, people let you just do whatever you need to do. Like, I've seen people be like, oh, I wish that I had cancer instead of some, like a mental health problem, because then I could just take off school or whatever, and I wouldn't get asked for why and things like that. And I'm like, first of all, it's not that easy. People don't just let you do anything because you have cancer. Definitely don't. And even if they did, like, really getting out of class is worth it to be dying. I don't know about that. So I think that we really need to think about what we're saying, and whenever we're like, oh, it's so much worse to have this kind or that, especially since you have no idea if someone who has a physical problem has a mental disorder or problem as well. So anyway, I'll go back to basically what's happening with me, and which also will hopefully be informative for all of you, or anyone who may have to deal with something like a malignant pleural effusion. And basically, a malignant pleural effusion is it involves the buildup of fluid containing cancer cells between membranes that line the lungs. Basically, you have something called pleura, which they're membranes that go, supposed to be protective, essentially, of your lungs, and they help with the movement of the lungs and things like that as well, so you can breathe easier, usually, if everything's fine with the pleura. But since I have cancer in mine, it's not so fine, and it has a huge impact on me. And tomorrow I actually have to go get a thoracentesis done, and essentially what they do is they stick a huge, I mean huge, I'm like I used to be afraid of needles. Now that I'm poked and prodded and have such horrible luck at the hospitals and everything, I think that I'm like getting to like phobia territory. But anyway, so they have to stick a needle through here, through your back, and for they take a thing that's kind of like a medevac. It's almost like a medical vacuum, and it's tiny, and it goes through, and they basically suck out all the extra fluid and anything else that may be like stuck there in your lungs, and making you unable to breathe and have trouble. And since I basically the place where I have the biggest problem with buildup of fluid is just in my under my right lung, where the pleural sac, like pleural sac is basically the two membranes that make the pleura, um, just start, taking in things like different fluids and cancer cells and everything, and just are preventing you from being able to breathe because it's taking up all that space. And usually, your pleura help you to with the movement of your lungs and with breathing and everything else. I now like really miss how much something so simple helps out. But mine are backfiring against me. So, at least in the one lung. So, I'll have to get that done early morning, and I hate it. Then I have had a thoracentesis before. Sometimes they are used to actually diagnose whether your pleural effusion is malignant or benign. We already know that mine is malignant because, the cancer, and also I've had one of these before. I've actually had, I think, 2 or 3. But it's been a very long time, and so hopefully this will help. And whether this helps or not will determine quite a few things as well, because I'm at the point where there are no other like oral chemos or, you know, kind of treatments that are for me for metastatic breast cancer that will actually help me anymore. And I might end up having to get a catheter put in basically like my lung area, which I didn't realize that was a thing. And yeah, so basically once my thoracentesis is over tomorrow, I'll go home. It's not a full day thing or anything. It's relatively quick, honestly. It'll take about an hour to 2 hours. But it's not quick when you're awake and dealing with it. But anyway, so hopefully that'll get it to the point where I don't have all this pressure on me and like this like fluid retention just staying there, and I'll be able to breathe better, which would be nice because it's never fun to have to stop, every couple minutes to catch your breath or get a wheelchair or whatever you may need to do. I do have a oxygen tank here at my home that I can use at night, but it's huge. It's like a behemoth, like probably made in like the 60s or something. I don't know. I think they just had to like laying around extra, and I'm like, sure, I'll take it. But yeah, and it doesn't work well if you have sinus problems and have like a stuffy nose, because if you try to breathe through like the little tube sticking it up there, yeah, it just gets clogged up. So I've been wanting to get a personal one that like works a little better and I can actually take out with me, but so far it doesn't look like that's working out very well. Which for now that's okay. Anyway, hopefully all of that works out tomorrow. If it does, then I can get a surgery that is called a pleurodesis, and this basically will decrease the chance of the fluid returning, because instead of having these membranes that the cancer is, spreading through and fluid can still go through, it will, it's kind of, I'll write it out a little bit more because it's kind of hard to explain, but essentially it will make that pleural effusion in that sac kind of collapse, and so the membranes will stick together, and all of that room that was taken up by all the fluid and everything else within that pleural sac that's making everything harder for me to breathe, will kind of be non-existent because it's, the two membranes won't be holding fluid, they'll be collapsed. So then also after that, I might have to get a catheter in my lung, which I didn't know people do that. I know the thing. And so it was really kind of crazy to just see, like, I have a pulmonologist now too, on top of, an oncologist. They're just gonna add all these, specialists, I guess. But anyway, sorry, I just didn't really care for this pulmonologist when I met her. She might be better later on. But yeah, when she brought out the catheter and showed me kind of where you put it and everything, it made it all seem more real and made it all seem more awful. You also have to make sure that you don't get it wet or anything like that. So I don't know. Uh, I'm probably going to have a catheter in my lung for a short period of time. Well, it won't be short. It'll be months. Um, Basically, it's attached to a tube, and a nurse is going to, whenever it starts filling up, undo it and, get rid of all the gunk that's in there, and hopefully we'll be able to, not have to do that again. But I really don't know enough now about what's going to happen with my body or even these actual procedures yet. This is all pretty new to me, and I'm not going to lie, the doctors really haven't been the best about explaining things in detail. They kind of like are just like, no, you just do this. No, this is what helps you. Or like, no, there's no more medication. I'm like, I asked if there are any like exercises I could do, not medication. But anyway, hopefully this helps. And if I do have to get a catheter, that's going to be hard for me, but I do realize that, it's something that will make it easier for me to breathe. It'll be worth it, and also I can kind of hide it. I know it seems ridiculous to be dying and caring about, like, oh, people can see my lung catheter, but I just don't want to have to even think about those things right now, or really most of the time. I already understand what's happening. I don't need to have catheter sticking out of my lung to like remember that, oh yeah, I need to watch out for this, or I have cancer, guys, but I I'm worried, but I'm also hopeful. So the timing on how long people live after these kind of surgeries, though, doesn't really seem all that great. But so that's basically what's going to be happening with me. And if the thoracentesis doesn't work, and if nothing helps with me being able to breathe better or anything being drained out or staying drained, then they're probably going to have to go back to intravenous chemo. And I might have to do that again anyway, even with the other things. I once told myself I would never do intravenous chemo again because, well, basically when I did it when I had stage 2, I couldn't do anything. It was like I didn't have a life at all. Like, there were, of course you lose your hair and like your eyebrows and eyelashes and things like that. And that's pretty devastating in itself. But when you also you have chemo brain, people call it. Some people say they still have it long after they're done with chemotherapy. I've been lucky to not really feel that way. But when you're on intravenous, yeah, you do feel the chemo brain, and it makes you more sluggish. And for someone who used to be pretty active and really kind of go-getter, like it's really hard to deal with the differences. And I'll go ahead and wrap this up and just say thank you for everyone who stuck around and who has watched any of my videos, or who has thought about me or sent me a message. I really do appreciate the messages that I've received. I know that I haven't always responded back to some, because some, like, there was one that I got that was really long, but like really detailed and really like made me feel like, wow, maybe I really like am making someone feel better about like what they're going through, since a lot of people don't let you be yourself without, consequences in the cancer world, at least breast cancer world, from what I've seen. I know it's different everywhere, but there's something about breast cancer that it's very I don't know why the people who have it play into it, because it's almost kind of like everyone be grateful and talk about how great things are and don't put down anything and don't question too much because you're so lucky and da 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 and then they'll also just turn so much into just about like looks instead of caring at all about maybe I want to live. I don't really care about my looks compared to whether I live or not. But, it's like you'll get, makeovers or, jewelry or, stuff, which is nice. But, I mean, I'd much rather, like, all of the, who knows how much money has been poured into breast cancer, my goodness, that anything with all the, that there would be some progress that matches, like, all of, all the money that they make off of us, so, but there's not, and I'll have more to say about that actually soon, about how metastatic breast cancer is going to be treated even more differently than other stages of cancer than it used to be, and it's really disheartening news, but that one definitely needs a full video, and I might have to direct you to a few sites and things as well to like prove my point of this is really happening. And then also just next time I'll be doing a video that deals kind of with empathy in general, because as I said in the last video, I don't want this channel to only be about breast cancer, even though I think breast cancer, and especially breast cancer among young adults and metastatic breast cancer especially, I think that these are really important things that need to be talked about, and they need to be talked about realistically. And like I said, hard to find that. So I want to still provide that information, but I also want just everyone to treat others better and themselves better, because we are in an empathy crisis, I feel like, right now in this world, and a lot of people don't seem to understand what empathy actually is, and that makes sense in some ways, because a lot of times when a word is used in psychology or academia or wherever it may be used at first, once it reaches kind of like, the masses and everyone starts using it, of course it's going to start changing a little bit in definition, and no one's gonna be like, okay, are you using that correctly? And different words can have multiple meanings in different contexts, so it does get changed. But I'm gonna explain like what empathy is, what it isn't, also how to maybe try to have more, and times where maybe empathy isn't the best. So that should be next time, and just wish me luck on my surgery tomorrow and all this lung stuff. It's really scary. And this year has been very hard health-wise, and that's a large part of why I've not really posted any videos. I have a few where I've started, or they're almost done, but then something would come up. I've been so sick so much this year, and it's been crazy. Partially because of the lung stuff, but also just, my immune system is horrible. So if someone has, a cold or something and they have it for 3 days, I'll have it for 3 weeks or something. In fact, I genuinely thought that I was going to die towards the end of April, because things were really bad and I really could not breathe for anything. It was bad. I would fall asleep and wake up like choking on just weird viscous fluids, and so working on that too. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll go ahead and put some of this information. I know it was new to me, so it's probably new to a lot of people. So I'll go ahead and post that up in words instead of just me talking, and you'll be able to see that. And I'll definitely be making an effort to put more videos up, because a lot of times if I'm not feeling well, I'll just be like, oh, I'll do it later. But like, really, I'm never gonna really feel well again, probably. Not completely, at least. So I need to just go ahead and get things out there, because especially with the fact that this doesn't seem to be going away for me, and I don't know if it will or how long I have. I think it's really important that I work on this and a few other things that are important to me. So thank you everyone who's been watching. Please like, subscribe, share,